It's Drew Tessier's mostly queer comedy show. Let's talk, y'all. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Drew Tessier's mostly queer comedy podcast. I am so excited about today's guest, Elsa Wiathe. So, what's crazy about New York is, one, that we even have a queer comedy scene, because I've traveled to other cities, but like within New York, there are so many fractions within the, there's the Manhattan people and there's the Brooklyn people and there's the people that like clubs and people that hate clubs and everything in between. I feel like you are the most beloved person across the platforms in the New York. I feel like you're the matriarch, you're the patriarch. I am so excited to have you on the show today.
Oh, wow. Thank you. That feels nice.
How long have you been doing stand-up comedy?
A little over 10 years. I started in Virginia,
right?
In that little tiny comedy scene there. About 2012, 2013. So yeah, it's been about 10 years. And I've always lived in New York City on and off my entire life. So I already had family here. So I started doing stand up in Virginia, and I think really quickly became like big fish in a little pond. Yeah. And I was just like, hey, maybe I'll try this in New York. I had no ambitions to do anything.
Where in Virginia?
Norfolk, Virginia, beach area. In fact, I started doing comedy at the Virginia Beach Funny Bone.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to do the Clash of the Comics, the monthly amateur show. And after you win like 3 of them, they don't let you do it anymore. So I very quickly couldn't do it anymore, actually. So I was just like, all right.
And if I'm not mistaken, there used to be, going back like 20 years ago, there was a comedy club, which may have even been before your time. There's a comedy club that's no longer here in New York that also had a club in Virginia Beach. Because I knew comics it was that comics used to go back and forth.
I know there's Virginia has 2 Funny Bones. I know there's one in Richmond and there's one in Virginia Beach.
And that's a lot of military in that area.
My mom, my dad, my grandfather.
Oh, you're a military brat.
Yeah, I was going to join the milmilitary.
What branch? I mean, what branch were your parents, I guess?
Navy. Everybody was Navy. I was going to join the Navy.
Yeah, I'm from an Army family.
Yeah, thank God I didn't. No. They told me they were like, yeah, we think you have impulse control and anger issues, and I was like,
isn't that what they're looking for in soldiers?
That's what I thought, but I was like, if y'all don't want, sure, actually, like, right. No thanks. All right, cool, you're right.
Plus, if they would have asked, you would have told. I mean, it would have.
I was actually joining right after that was done.
Wow. That would have been interesting.
Yeah, right after Don't Ask, Don't, maybe like a couple of years afterwards, they got rid of that.
Wow. You've been on several of my shows. We've been on shows together, but I was going through kind of today making notes and trying to think of like the best story that just really to me sums up who you were as a person. Do you remember?
Okay.
We were doing a show at Greenwich Village Comedy Club downtown, and you were headlining, and you had stepped out for a little while, and during that time,
and brought a box of cat food. Yes.
So there's this dude that's down on his luck and just trying to sell this box of cat food. And you're gone, and I'm admittedly starting to sweat it a little bit because I don't know where you've gone or when you're coming back. And you wander back in kind of before it's time for your set and do your entire set on this box of cat food. And I don't think I've ever laughed so hard in my and just kept going in. And, you have material.
Yeah.
But your ability to get on stage and just freeball is awe-striking to me.
I didn't mean to do that. I went outside for the cigarette, and the guy was asking if I wanted to buy the cat food, and other folks were making fun of him, and I was just like, no, I'll buy the cat food or whatever. Sure. And I thought I only had $5 in my pocket, but I actually had 20, and he's seen the 20, and I was like, oh, fuck, I got to give it this. You've seen it now.
And this is why I think it is the perfect story for you, because one, the fact that you had the heart to give the guy the $20, then the ability to make that as an investment of a prop that you took so much humor out of, and again, going in and over and over and over. And
I don't have a cat.
Finally, right. finally gets to, I'm saying a solid 10 minutes of material on this fucking box of cat food and gets to the very end. And then she goes, y'all, I don't even have a cat. That was so fucking funny. I love it. So just going on material that I've seen you do. So there was Virginia, there's New York, but there was a period in Georgia as well, right?
Yeah, I spent maybe like 3 months randomly in Georgia with my friend, and my friend was pregnant. And at the time, me and my ex-fiance were breaking up, and so we just sort of went to our opposite ends of the country. She went back to Portland, Oregon, and I went to Georgia to go help my friend. She was pregnant. She has 2 kids under 5.
Right.
And I was just like, yeah, sure, I'll come. My life is falling apart. I'll come hang out. And while I was down there, I found the tiny little Augusta comedy scene down there, which was like 5 people, but like, it was really cute. I had a great time in the Augusta comedy scene. There's just one bar that everybody kind of went to on like a Thursday night. I would get like a Uber. I would go Uber to the bar and do their open mic, and then they're like, you want to do like a show one day? And I was just like, sure, we'll put together a show. And so like, yeah, I still have some friends in the tiny little Augusta comedy scene.
Well, you also, I mean, I've seen you do material about what it was like dating down there, or...
Yeah, they don't have... I don't know why I thought that was going to be the time for me to join Tinder. But I got down there and realized, I'm very lonely. And so I was like, I don't know, what do people do? I've been engaged. I've been with someone for like 3.5 years at that point, so I don't know how to date again, right? So I just was like, okay, I guess the folks do Tinder. And I got on Tinder, and it was just me and like 3 other lesbians that looked like me. Tinder was empty. I was just like, why did I do this?
And guys looking for someone
and it's just like, never mind. Let's get I'll wait.
Because you're a relationship person. I mean, you're sort of a serial monogamist. Is that
no, I'm not. Women date me.
Okay.
Women date me. I don't know. I come from a long line of very goofy but charming people. My grandfather, right? Mm-hmm. When I would hear all these stories about my grandfather, how he was, such a charmer, and this one, and then like I know my grandfather had 2 families or whatever, and like and I'm like, this guy with the hunchback and overalls, this guy with the thick glasses and hunchback and overalls is the Casanova of the town.
The Waiths know how to sling it,
right? And then when he passed away, his funeral was just so huge. I was like, wow, okay, cool. And then my dad, right? Same thing with my dad, just like the corniest guy I've ever met. He's just funny and goofy, and like I see pictures of what he used to look like back in the day. I'm like, this guy?
Do you have a relationship with your dad?
Oh no, we lived on the same street for a little while, and he didn't know. I don't like that guy. I don't like that guy, and unfortunately, I look just like him.
Oh.
I don't like him. I look just like him. I am a chip off of that fucking block. Yeah. Oof. Oof da. Yeah, but actually, I look just like both of my parents. If you put me next to my mom, I look like my mom. If you put me next to my dad, I look like my dad. If you put me between them, they're arguing.
Well, that's the funny thing with kids, right? I think a lot of time you put a kid by their parents, they somehow look like both of them, and like, how's that possible?
No, man, I look like both of my parents. like it's a Venn diagram, like where of their worst qualities, where the circles cross. That's me. The best thing they had was me, and then that was it. But no, I don't talk to my mom. I don't talk to my dad. Like, shout out, whatever.
I think the first time I ever saw you do comedy was when Sarah Kennedy was still helping with the She-Devil. Which I don't even know if that still happens or not. But and you had headlined, and that's when I saw you, and just immediately was like, oh my God, I have to have you on my show. Here's another interesting thing about you. So I was working on putting together a presentation for sort of a teaching comedy something, and I Googled, how to put together a 5-minute set. And the first thing that came up was actually something that you have written on putting together a 5-minute set. And I'm telling you, it is the best description of how to really like bang out material.
Yeah,
Were you
I
teaching?
teach.
Okay.
Yeah, I teach stand-up comedy with Gold Comedy School for Girls and Others. We started just teaching teen girls stand-up comedy, and now Gold Comedy is the premier networking comedy community, online community. I teach the Stand-Up 101 class, but like...
This is an online class?
Yeah, well, we're online. We've done things in person. We have sketch groups. We have sketch groups that have never even been in the same room with each other.
Where is it based out of?
Right here in New York,
Wow.
but we're all, this is one of the things that got a pandemic boom. So we were teaching teens stand-up, and we were like, we need a way to do this more. And we were able to get like a couple of clubs and bars to like give us a spot for like a day. But like, no, like some of these girls were really interested and they would go on to like to be in college and they still wanted to do it. And we didn't have like the network for them for that.
Wow.
And so we were like, well, let's do it online. And all these investors, they would understand the importance it's a comedy school for girls and others now, because first it was just teen girls, but now we've opened it up to all gender expressions. I have students 15 to 60 in Canada, in Australia, like yeah. So when the whole world went online, we were like, people would understand, but they were like, nobody wants to learn comedy online. Nobody wants to learn comedy online. And then the pandemic happened, and everyone had to do everything online. And then now suddenly people were trying things they had maybe never tried before. And this was one of the things that the pandemic really helped out. So yeah, I teach it's 8 classes, 4 weeks, and it's how to write a 3 to 5 minute set, how to just how to mine your own life for material and write a 3 to 5 minute set.
Huh, I have to keep that in mind. We should do like a clinic sometime. That'd be awesome.
Oh yeah, man, it's super fun. When I went to rehab last year.
And that was you've been to rehab.
I've been to
once
rehab
or
twice.
Okay.
I've been to rehab twice, and then the halfway house. When I went to rehab last year, the second time, there was a guy there. He was like, I really want to learn stand-up. I was like, yeah, I guess I can kind of teach you, right? And I can kind of teach at least the first couple of classes, like right off my head now. But yeah, I tell people like, how do you learn stand-up, right? I'm like, I can't teach you to be funny. I can teach you how to write a joke.
Yeah.
There are some basic building blocks, and so yeah. And the guy wrote like a little 2-minute set while we were in rehab. It was so cute.
Did you guys do a little show while you were there?
They like doing little stuff like that for group. So like they encouraged me to. I didn't want to. I was like, I don't know. I didn't do anything for the. I hosted the talent show.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I hosted the talent show. I didn't, but yeah, we had a talent show in rehab. I went to rehab twice. First time I went to rehab was in 2020, and when I was drinking a whole lot. Yeah, I was drinking a whole lot, not very dangerously, not feeling jazzed about life at all. And I woke up one morning and couldn't lift my arm.
Jeez.
Yeah, so I think I don't quite remember, but I left a show. It was a great show, actually. Had a good time, great show, and that's always actually the problem. Is I have too much fun. It's not like I'm drinking all the time just because I'm sad. Sometimes I'm just like, I'm just having a great fucking time, and I'm having more and more of a great time, and then now I can't lift my arm in the morning.
Well, that's what's interesting about you, because you can be very funny sober, and you can be very. Admittedly, very funny blackout. It's
dangerous. A lot of friends for a long time didn't know I had a problem, and then I went to rehab in 2020. When I went to rehab, no pandemic.
Oh.
When I came out of rehab, full blown pandemic.
Oh, that's wild. So when did you check in?
Late February.
Oh, that's crazy. That's like coming out of a bomb shelter and finding out that...
Literally that movie, 28 days later.
Yeah.
It was hard to just... Because I remember... one of the last things I remember doing right before I checked in was making a joke about the coronavirus.
Yeah.
Saying that, I'm going to rehab because I caught the coronavirus. Like a beer joke.
Yeah, sure.
Right? it wasn't serious yet.
Yeah, I
right?
know. I remember all the steps.
Right.
Leading up
It wasn't
to it.
serious yet. And I remember going to rehab and checking into rehab. And, I think one of the first funny moment was, like, the nurse asked me, she's like, how much are you drinking right now? And I was like a 6-pack. She was like, oh, that's it? Yeah, like a 6-pack a night. She's like, a 6-pack of what? I was like double IPAs. She was like, oh, so like a 12. I was like, oh, okay, well, that is math. But I asked her, I was like, what's this coronavirus thing, right? I was like, what's going on? She's like, I don't know. And I'm like, you don't know, you're a nurse. She's like, I don't know. And I was like, okay.
So both times you decided to seek treatment, did you check yourself then?
Yeah.
So both times,
Yeah.
it's like, I got to do
Yeah,
this.
no, both times it was just like, whoop, almost killed myself. Hey, let's check in there.
Wow.
We're trying to turn a corner here. So like, I feel like I've taken a lot of time off from stand up because the pandemic was one thing and recovery, trying to like not drink as much, and then I broke my leg.
Oh, right, the cane. I forgot the cane was happening for a while.
Yeah, I broke my leg late 2020 and had to relearn to walk. So I didn't go to work for a while. I didn't do any stand-up for a while. I started drinking again.
Where you couldn't stand up.
I did a lot of lean. I did a lot of lean-up comedy. The cane was a fun prop for a little while. I did a little prop comedy with the cane, and that was fun for a little while. But just couldn't get out like I used to. And then I don't know, man. I think they just told me a couple months ago, and I know it's like on brand or on trend or whatever, but your boy's autistic, right?
Right.
And I think the pandemic just brought that to the surface, because I'd stopped drinking for a while, but I was still having some of the same why is life weird, right? Like, well, I'm not drinking, but my brain still feels funny, right? And then I wasn't working. And then I broke my leg, and I was, extra isolated again some more. And I tried to go back to work, in 2022, and it just really, really didn't. I haven't had.
Didn't take.
I haven't had a steady job since 2022, and it was just like, hey, you know what? When the doctors told me you're probably autistic, and we're gonna start doing some evaluations and stuff, and I was just like, that would make so much sense, you guys.
Well, you've had the material for a while where you talk about, if a girl online will just tell you exactly, because you're not good at picking up.
So many things. I realized, I'm not good at picking up certain social cues, and those were just jokes. I'm realizing, so those things that I was joking about aren't really that was a thing.
The call's coming from inside the house.
I'm like, y'all, there was a time when I first started doing stand-up. For the first year and a half, if you scroll back in my social media far enough, in the first sort of year or so of me doing stand-up, I used to wear a captain's hat. Nonstop, all the time. I had no jokes about the captain's hat. I just needed to wear it. That was autistic.
Who doesn't love a captain's hat? I mean, especially if you've got a riding crop to go with.
The captain's hat, and then when it wasn't the captain's hat, then it was a bandana for a little while. Wore a bandana a bunch. Then when I didn't wear a bandana a bunch, I just wore a hat, just a regular hat all the time. And I'm just like, that was my autistic need to touch my head, right? I'm like, oh, but I was masking it with wearing a hat all the time.
You also, when things really go south, you have a thing with pulling out the hair too, right?
Yeah, I pulled out a whole bunch of my dreads one time, and I was just like, why did I do that? Right. I'm autistic, bro. There's so many things.
But also brilliant, and I don't throw that around a lot. I mean, honestly, just again, if you ever get the chance to see them on stage, I mean, just the way that your brain works and the way that you can connect punchlines and keep a through line while still going on a tangent, without even being pre-written. I mean,
some of it.
Have you started working on a
No.
sort of one-person show about?
Everyone keeps saying I'm supposed to make a one-person show, right? I don't know. But see, here's the thing. Do I have the focus to pretend to try to do that for long enough? don't know. I'm supposed to do a thing. I know. I'm supposed to do a thing. I'm supposed to have a thing. But like I don't have the consistency to do anything for too fucking long. I wasn't supposed to be doing stand up for 10 years. I honestly just did it on a dare.
Yeah.
I literally just did it on like partially a bit on a dare, partially a bit.
I don't know. We've got a blinking light happening. I don't know. Well, I even forgot to mention we're usually somewhere else. We're today we're in Gotham Studios. We're sort of stepping it up today and doing something different, but we've got a blinking light. So I don't know if you can notice or not. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No, it was kind of a dare. 10 years ago I was on probation. And I had to quit smoking weed, and I had to quit drinking, and I went to go see my probation officer, and she was like, I was like, I'm not having a good time. I was like, this fucking sucks. I hate it. And she's like, you're a dry drunk. And I was like, I don't even know what the fuck that means. I mean, I've also had a
just
drinking...
white knuckling sobriety.
Right.
Yeah.
I've also had a drinking problem since I was like 15. So I've been in and out of AA since I was like a teenager. But, you know, she's like, you're a dry drunk. She was like, she said a whole bunch of bullshit, but this was the one thing that stuck with me. She was like, you've practiced drinking. She's like, you know how to drink. You drink really well. Now that you don't have your hobby anymore, you don't have anything to do with your hands. She's like, there must be something you want to try doing. Right? And I was like, stand up, maybe? I was like,
Put down the bottle and picked up a microphone.
Yeah, I was like, I think I'm kind of funny, right? Like, yeah, I used to get in trouble in high school all the time. I think I was like maybe like 23 or something.
So 23, the first time you ever did stand-up comedy was around 23, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
What was the first joke you wrote? Do you remember?
It had something to do. It was about my roommate. Shitrus. It's something along the lines about my roommate. It really tears up the fucking bathroom when he fucking goes to the bathroom, but then he tries to like power bomb it with like.
So it was a shit joke.
Yeah, it was a shit joke.
Sure.
Yeah, he tries to power bomb it with air freshener, and then now it's like it doesn't smell better; it just smells like shitrus.
I've never done a shit joke, but I certainly did plenty of dick jokes when I was first starting to write.
You know, for 3 months, I didn't do any gay jokes. I didn't want to. It was very early on. A friend of mine in comedy, big fat round guy. He was like, "How come you don't have any gay jokes?" I was like, "I don't know. Haven't figured out how to joke." I was like, "Do I want to joke about that? How about it's very obvious I'm gay." He was like, "Yeah, I know." He was like, "It's very obvious I'm fat." He was like, "If the big fat guy got on stage and didn't make any fat guy jokes, everyone's gonna be like, how come the fat guy didn't make fat guy jokes?" He was like, "You have to talk about the thing."
And this is one of my favorite, and one of the reasons I wanted to start the podcast. This is one of my favorite subjects, is sort of people's relationship with discussing their sexuality on stage. You know, because I've talked to older queer comics. You know, there are certain guys that went. I want to say Rick Crum once said that he was doing comedy for like 20 years before he talked about being gay. And I could never. This is what kept me from getting on stage for so long. Is like I didn't see a lot of opportunity to be gay on stage, and I didn't know how to write jokes and not talk about it. So that's always very fascinating.
I think my hesitation at first was I wanted to make gay jokes or jokes about who I am, right? But I also didn't want to invite bigotry. So I was like, how? Because I tell people all the time, I sometimes don't like doing comedy for us queers. I was just having this conversation. There are two very loud camps in comedy or in kind of just culture right now. I get it. There are those people who will blow right past funny just to be offensive, right? There are those people, absolutely. And then there are definitely people camped out waiting to be offended. And I think right now, unfortunately, those are the two loudest groups of people.
That is fast. That really kind of boils it all down.
Yeah,
no,
because I have several distinct memories of doing queer comedy for queer people. We can laugh about ourselves amongst ourselves, right? And people being too uptight about it, right? Yeah. And I'm just like, you guys, certain things about us are a little ridiculous, right? like let's laugh. Yeah. We can laugh. Or like, I was just telling this story the other day. No lie. I was booked for Filipino Pride, right? I was like, first of all, do you guys know I'm not Filipino?
Where?
I was like,
that was in.
It was here in New York. It was a group of Filipino folks, and they were doing a fun little Filipino Pride event, and they booked me to come do stand up. I'm like,
these are queer Filipino people, or this was okay? So got it.
Yeah, they were doing their own little fun Pride event for their community. And I was like, y'all do know I'm not Filipino, right? Am I taking a spot from somebody? I was like, I do know a Filipino gay comic. Okay, you guys just want me. Okay, all right, you just want me. You're booking me. Got it. And so I go do the show, and I had a joke where it's like I sometimes don't like being such a very masculine-looking lesbian because people get really aggressive about that, and like people think you want to fight or whatever, and like even my girlfriend one time, and the joke goes like we're walking hand in hand, and some big tree trunk man like grabs her ass or whatever, and she like looks at me like, oh, you gonna do something about it? I'm like, no, bitch, I'm not gonna do anything about it. That man is scary. Like, no, I'm not. But like she looked back at me and like I had to go do something, right? So I walked back over to the guy. I was like, hey, what the fuck is your problem? And he was like, yeah, what the fuck is your problem? I was like, no, my problem is my ass is really nice. I'm gonna grab both of them, and everybody laughs, right? And this lady in the back, she waits for the laugh to die down, and she goes, she was like, that's not funny.
Well, all the people laughing with you seem to laughing
and that's
seem to
literally
disagree.
what I said. I was like, ma'am, I think the rest of the room disagrees. And then like after the show, there's like a little meet and greet and mingle and drinks and snacks and stuff and party. And this woman, you can tell she's like jockeying to talk. I can see her trying to position herself to come speak to me. And so I keep trying to like put myself anti to her. So like, please don't come talk to me, right? And she finally gets me. And she was like, that joke was misogynistic. And I was like, yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was. I'm glad you got it, right?
It was also a really uncomfortable situation that I
happened
lived
to
through
me
that I wanted to express through my art. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but you're right. And I'm like, you know what you could have did? It's just not laugh.
Right.
That's the best critique there is just to not laugh at it, and that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I live in two worlds. People are like, how are you queer, or how are you activist, or how are you, this and that, and also a comedian, because there's two things I believe. Everything is fucking funny or nothing is.
Yeah.
But also, should you say that? But if you're gonna say that, then stand behind saying that, right? So like, especially in my class, right? A lot of my students will ask me, particularly, right, like Dave Chappelle, right? Like, how do you feel about that as a trans person, right? And I'm like, I'm fine with it, actually. I want him to tell those jokes or whatever it is the fuck that he's doing. What I want him to stop doing is whining. Right? I mean, because that's the whole thing. You're being edgy. Right? You're being controversial, which means by default, some people are not going to like this. Some people are loudly not going to like this. Fucking ball up, right? Like, I'm getting canceled. Like, well, that you run that risk.
We all do. Yeah.
We run that risk. Yeah. But I mean, but also say the thing, bro. Go ahead, say it. Say the thing. Okay, does it? Because I mean, I get it. Does it invite like violence or extra discrimination or things like that? Like, very well, possibly. Yeah, sure. But I also am not going to tell you what you can and can't say because white men, those that are in power, they'll never listen to the rules. If we start saying what people can and can't say, that works against me. Yeah. It's not going to work against you. Yeah. You're still going to say what you want to say, right? So, no thanks. Say what you want to say. Deal with the fallout. There's two camps of people. There are people, you're in the camp rushing to say the controversial thing, right? You want to say that thing, and then there's also these people who want to be offended, so you're inviting those people too, and then you're also inviting people who just been like, I don't like that, and I don't think people are used to hearing I don't like that.
And I think also just plenty of people that just don't have a sense of humor. I mean, they just don't. I mean,
also that's fine too, though. Yeah. That's fine. You're not going to die because I don't like that.
But maybe a comedy show isn't the right place for you.
Sure, don't go. Also, don't go, right? Like, don't don't like, if you don't like it, don't laugh.
Exactly.
You can get up, leave. Like, no, literally, like, I feel like everybody has every right to every reaction, right? Like, minus violence or whatever. Like, sure, you didn't like that joke? Cool.
You may not have an appreciation for dance. Don't go to the ballet.
Yeah, cool. It's not for you. That's fine. Cool.
You know, it's interesting because I had a show the other night and had a young comic. Well, he's not that young. He's a new comic of Russian background, I believe. He did a joke that was not only racist but just lazy. I mean, it was just and not funny. I mean, I think the punchline was watermelon emoji or something. I mean, it was stupid.
Right.
But I had two women in the audience from Atlanta that shut the show the fuck down. I mean, just like, you're done. Get off the stage. Get off. And
no,
he left. And then the show, I was hosting. I got back up there and sort of made a joke and blah, 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 and got it back on track. But yeah, I've never seen somebody just absolutely get dismissed by the audience before.
I've been booed exactly one time, and I was just like, fair, like, fair. And we just, like, you don't get to derail the show either, you know. Like, I get, you know, if it's not okay. Here's my thing. Also, in this group of folks who are just rushing past funny to be controversial, like, oh, people are too sensitive these days. Was that a funny joke, though, bro?
Yeah, right.
Was it funny, though? Because I'm trying to. No. Everyone loves something transgressive. We love controversy, right? I was literally telling somebody. I'm trying to tell you. I was just having this conversation. All things are funny or nothing is, right? And the other thing is, should you be the one to say that, and what are you saying, right? So I'm like, I never ever in my life ever thought I would ever say this. I have two favorite rape jokes. They are funny. They are funny. One of them is the joke. The punchline really is, it's like the joke. It's not about content. It's about context. He's like, the guy's like, I said the word rape, and everybody got uncomfortable. Yeah. And he's like, the joke isn't about that, but I said that, and y'all got weird. Yeah. Right. And I'm like, that's hilarious, right? Because. Okay, so rape is a pile of dog shit, right? It's not good. It's not a good thing. It's a very, very bad thing. And if we're walking down the street and you pick up a pile of dog shit and you just hand it to me, well, I don't want that.
Right.
Right? But if you pick up the pile of dog shit and you kind of form it into like a little steak and you put some sort of side dishes on there and you season it, I might take 2 bites before I realize it's shit. And you know why I did that? Because you crafted something. You crafted something. It's not that rape joke bad, racist joke bad, trans joke bad. No, it's not that the content of the joke is bad. You didn't craft me anything. Right. You were just like do funny, and I'm like, no, it's not that it's too edgy for you guys. No, we love edgy. But you gotta be saying something. Yeah, absolutely. There's gotta be a message. You gotta be saying something. It's gotta. And I'm not even. I'm not even all about that like punch up, punch down shit. Like, was it funny? Yeah. You know, that's where I think that's where a lot of Dave Chappelle actually kind of loses me, because I want to laugh at it. Actually, I would love for you to tell a good one. I don't think you're telling jokes. I think you're a little.
Did you like his early stuff before he got started?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Of course.
I mean, that first special.
Of course.
I've seen so many times.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, also, you can't be 7 specials in talking about I'm canceled.
with a multi-million-dollar contract.
What? How, bro? It feels like, you know, and also, is it Gerard Carmichael said something recently? You know, it was like, you can't be 7 specials in and be like, I'm canceled, you know? Like, you say it and stand by it, you know? Right. But also, I have some,
or if you're canceled, why can we still hear you?
Why can we still hear you? Right? Like, you're not canceled. And he was like, it's unfortunate. Gerard Conrad, he's like, it's unfortunate that when you type in Dave Chappelle's name on Google, this is what comes up now.
Right.
This is what comes up now.
Yeah, is this really what you want us to most know you for?
Right, you know?
When Half Baked is a really fun movie.
I have, me and my friend have a old Labor Day tradition of cooking 3 packs of bacon and watching Half Baked and Office Space on Labor Day.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just the bacon has nothing to do with anything. It's just bacon and beer.
I was trying to. Okay.
It's just we're too lazy to actually cook food, so we're just gonna fry bacon and beer all day and watch Office Space and Half Baked. It was a good movie.
When I was in college, for whatever reason, I was a theater kid, and we always had rehearsal on Easter weekend. So we could never go home. My parents used to get pissed about it. We could never go home for Easter weekend because not usually on Easter Sunday, but like on Saturday, so you couldn't really leave town.
Mm-hmm.
And there was always a little shitty carnival that was set up in the parking lot of the mall. And we used to get a case of Milwaukee's Best and do Beaster every year. Every time I think about it, I always think Beaster.
I think. Well, okay. I'm never. Honestly, which is really weird. I've always been a big pothead. I didn't start drinking, even though I've had a drinking problem since I was like 15. I wouldn't say I've had a big issue until like my late 20s. Mm-hmm. So I was always the pothead at the party. Like, I don't like liquor. High Life.
Yeah.
Miller High Life. Yeah. Like, I like a cheap beer.
Champagne of beers.
The champagne of beers. We used to have hurricane parties in Virginia, and we would have our beer fridge full up of High Life. And just like, what is that? What was that? Pulp Fiction? When they open up the suitcase and it's the gold glow.
Yeah.
Oh, that feels so good to me. Yeah, open up the little mini beer fridge and everything's glowing gold. Ugh. Yeah, I love a good cheap beer. Yeah.
I used to drink Bud Light. It's like the amount of shit that I caught for drinking Bud Light, unironically, for so long. But, that's disgusting. How could you drink that? And then suddenly it was a political statement.
Right. I was like, I actually already like Bud Light, but I'll drink more of it to be extra gay now.
Yeah, I was like,
sure.
So let me get this straight. You've put out a Bud Light commercial targeted at gay people. Am I the only person that this is for? Like, is this my own private?
This is trash just for me. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I bought a Budweiser sweater that I've been wearing that was literally, I think, 97% off. Last summer when Budweiser just completely took a shit.
Yeah, I'm a totally feral, dirty, gay,
gotta be
lesbian. But also I don't do basketball, so take that lesbian card. I don't do volleyball or softball. Take that one.
I don't have any pugs.
I don't know. I'm a hamster girl.
That's right. Yeah. You had butter.
I had butter. We had before butter there was dumpling, and then before little dumpling there was falafel, and then if you go all the way back to when I was in Virginia, then we had Sir Hampton Hamilton the third. There wasn't a first or a second. We just liked the third. That was, and then I've had ginger. I've always had hamsters growing up. I don't know. That's just been my pet of choice. I've had dogs too, but like.
So we're both stoners, like you mentioned a second. You were working you were managing a cannabis store for a while,
I was managing. I was assistant manager for a quote unquote dispensary.
I was like, was this one of the legal ones? Was this one of the sort of legal ones? Was this because I can't tell the difference in any of them right now.
It's one of the places that doesn't actually have real cannabis. So Delta 8.
You must get tired of answering those questions all day long.
THCO, HHC. I know way more about cannabis and cannabinoids than I ever needed to know.
Is any of that shit smokable? Or?
Oh yeah. Okay. So here's the little catchy catch with Delta 8 THC. When you say the word THC, there is last name. What we all know and love, THC, is THC Delta 9, right? Mm-hmm. So when you smoke weed, you're mostly smoking Delta 9. Our brains have a cannabinoid receptor, think of a keyhole, in the shape of the Delta 9 cannabinoid molecule, right? The difference between Delta 8 and Delta 9 is where the carbon chain lives, right? So for regular weed, Delta 9, it lives on the 9th carbon chain. Delta 8, it lives on the 8th carbon chain. So the difference between Delta 8 and Delta 9 is literally just moving one carbon.
Wow.
Right? But that has a big difference. So the keyhole in your brain is shaped for 9. And essentially, we've just ever so slightly bent the key. So when you smoke or consume Delta 8 THC, it can only activate your cannabinoid receptors about halfway.
Wow.
So what I try to explain it to people is there's marijuana classic, and then Delta 8 is like diet. So there's a lot of people say they don't feel Delta 8 or they makes them feel weird or sick or whatever. It's literally a less intense high, and I recommend it for folks who get like who think regular weed's too intense. Like if they get too like panicky.
See, I'm not. I don't usually have an issue with paranoia or anything, but I don't like to be baked.
Right.
I kind of like to be just elevated a little bit.
That's what.
And my big thing is the munchies. I just wish I could find a strain of weed that wouldn't make me want to eat the
hungry.
fucking fridge.
And I think for some people that's Delta 8. And then
yeah.
And I get why for some people like it doesn't work or right because you're very used to classic Delta 9 cannabis. And then like things like, okay, people have the Delta 10, literally the same thing with the key bent in the other direction, but it's not like it's going to get you higher because the number is bigger, right? The Delta, it's just the 10th carbon chain or whatever. So Delta 10 is kind of the same thing as Delta 8. It's just not going to get you as high, as intense. And that's why they can sell that at your like bodega,
right.
Or you don't need a special license or anything because the only thing that's federally regulated is Delta 9 THC.
And what were you telling me? Because, I mean, when I first moved to New York, we're in Midtown right now.
Yeah.
When I first moved here, this was all porn stores, and now it's all weed shops of different levels of legality. But you gave me, when we were standing in the hall, you gave me a quote that was 800.
Yeah. So the real dispensary. So I worked at 2 dispensaries last year. I worked at one that was there's no actual THC. Like Delta 9. So there's Delta 8, Delta 10, there was THCO, HHC, and all the CBD, CBG, CBC, CBN. There's all, I know way too much. That place was, you didn't need a license or ID or anything like that because it was no Delta 9 cannabis. The real dispensary that was licensed by the state, the Office of Cannabis Management came down, they helped cut the ribbon. That was like legal, like need an ID come inside type dispensary. When the director of the Office of Cannabis Management is a black guy, actually, young black guy, I was really surprised about that. He was stating off some like statistics or whatever, and illegal dispensaries in New York City to legal is 850 to 1.
I believe it. I mean, you said we were laughing about this. You know, I was saying that I miss the dude coming over and hanging out and petting the cat for a few minutes and all that. And then I was like, well, at least if I go to the Housing Works dispensary, I feel like because they've already raised several $1 million for that cause, which is great. And then, you like you said, you get sort of lazy and you're like, fuck it, I'm going to the bodega.
Yeah. I mean, also, I'm working on a new, like, I guess, line of jokes here. It's just like, make weed illegal again. It's not even cool anymore. I was like, all the things that used to make, I was like, I don't want to be gay anymore because everybody's fucking gay. I was like, it's not cool to be gay anymore. It's not cool to do drugs anymore. Everyone does. I was like, what do I got to do? I got to move on to like crack or something now. I was like, but crack is not even in fashion. I was like, I don't even know. I was like, I don't even know what the edgy drugs are now because everyone does drugs. I was like, I gotta go what? I gotta go to the dispensary and stand in a line now, and your fucking grandma is behind me in line. Right. You know, like there's no more pretend. I'm like, yeah. Used to be you had to know a guy who knew a guy, right? Or you had to go to the bodega and like know a handshake, and like you might get the best weed ever or stabbed. And that's what I need. Like I need to like recreate. I want the danger element again.
New York City. Go downstairs, get in a car with a fucking stranger, go around the block, come back, and
there's on Nostrand Ave in Brooklyn, you can stand at one dispensary and see 7 more. I
mean, when I was still in school at Auburn, I spent the night in jail for less than an eighth of weed I was asleep in bed minding my own business. It's wild how quickly it's all changed.
I have 2 misdemeanors in Virginia still that if I give them the $700, they'll take it off. But at this point, I'm not paying you because it's legal in Virginia now, recreational. I have 2 misdemeanors for pot in Virginia.
I wish I could find my headshot. I wish I could find my mugshot for and I got arrested in college. I'd love to see what that looked like.
I'm sure it's just you guys.
I've Googled before. I haven't found it easily.
I'm sure you just gotta pay for it.
Yeah.
I'm sure private investigators get that type of stuff all the time. I looked it up because I was just like, I looked up my record, and I still have 2 little misdemeanor charges in Virginia for the bowl and the weed in the bowl. 2 separate charges.
Are you a social media person or not really?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. I just had a tweet go very viral on Twitter to the tune of 20K likes.
Badass.
It's about Gerard Carmichael and race play, and now all the gay race play pages have been sending me stuff, and I'm like, that's not what I wanted. My DMs are in shambles right now.
Tell them where to find you online.
Yeah, sure. Find me on Twitter at Elsa, just Elsa, all 3 words. Otherwise, you'll find Frozen, and that's not me.
And she's going to be doing a couple shows with me downtown in May. I have the weekly queer show at Greenwich Village Comedy Club.
Yay!
This is honestly one of my favorite conversations.
Real quick, please come to his show. I got laid.
Shut up.
I got laid from another performer at your show because we hit it off. We hit it off. Then a couple of days later, we connected on Twitter. I didn't recognize her, and she was like, I had a really good time at the show the other night, and I was just like, who the hell is this?
Wait, this was an audience person?
No, it was another performer. I'll tell you later.
All right.
I'll tell you later. We had a little thing for a little bit because of your show. So dreams happen.
Bringing people together, y'all. Thank you so much. It's been so much fun. Elsa Eli Wiathe, comedy legend, queer.
Stop it.
Love it. Thank y'all. It's Drew Tessier's mostly queer comedy show.